I'm your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How is everybody doing this evening? I hope you're doing well. Anyway, tonight we're going to have a live stream about a few things. First, Trump's 48-hour ultimatum for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz, and the likelihood of ground troops in Iran forced to take beaches. And then we're going to talk about Cuba a little bit and the humanitarian crisis that the United States is causing in that country, which is, not right, okay? You don't spread democracy by creating a humanitarian catastrophe in a country. That's not a good way to spread democracy, as they call it. Anyway, those are the three subjects we're going to talk about tonight. But I got to wait for some people to show up. Let YouTube, send out a few notifications or get so a few people come here. But how's everybody liking those gas prices? We haven't seen nothing yet, people. Remember back in the 90s and maybe early 2000s, whenever there become a holiday came up, and all of a sudden a pipeline would go down and gas would have to go up 25 cents over that holiday weekend. It's amazing how that happened all the time, right? Just because the pipeline went down every single time. We all know it was a game. But they're going to sit there and tell me with this Iranian conflict we got going on, with 25% of the world's oil being shut down to countries, and like Cuba, where we're shutting them off completely. And they're going to say it's under $100 a barrel. I tell you what, nothing's real in this world. None of the markets, the values of stuff, oil, gold, silver, everything that people want to put their money into besides American dollars going down, right? We're in World War III, I'll say it, and every commodity is going down. Doesn't make any sense. And with the supply and demand, okay, if the Strait of Hormuz would have been closed, years ago, oil would have shot up to $200 a barrel in no time. By the way, nothing makes sense in today's world, and they're making sure. I got some people showing up, so let's get into the subject. Trump's 48-hour ultimatum to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Hello, how's you doing? Appreciate everybody being here. 48 hours for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz, so we're just going to create all sorts of hate and discontent, okay? Number one, a military never gives up their winning card, okay? They don't lay down the winning card because it's kicking the shit out of the enemy. And I realize Trump is probably getting a lot of backlash from all these Arab nations and stuff. Look at Qatar, United Arab Emirates. I mean, you're not only not oil or natural gas that's getting out, they're not getting food in. I mean, they just say that they don't have a lot of agricultural development in that area, especially with it being the high society vacation place in the Middle East. Do you support Trump? I obviously, no. I voted for him, but he's lost his fucking mind. Okay? And whatever. He thinks he can give other countries an ultimatum. What's he going to do? Is he going to start bombing them and stuff? Trump hasn't came through on anything. Secure the borders. No, now we're going to give them amnesty. Only if they really broke crimes are we going to get them out. No more wars. The Epstein list. Okay? And then the guy coming out. When I sat there yesterday and went on YouTube and saw a post of Donald Trump in the Lincoln Memorial, him sitting in the chair that Lincoln's sitting in, and it all in gold, okay? People got a serious problem. You want to look at your golden calf? Fine. That's my status. I hate all politicians. I'm a constitutional conservative, so obviously I don't like either goddamn party. Lindsey Graham, Chuck Schumer, take them all, and AOC, Omar, get rid of them all. See, that's what's coming in this country. All you mega people on the right that are looking through the country with the red lens, and all you can see is everything he does is right. And then you got the liberals with the blue lens that they see only they can see everything the liberals do is right. You know, and us in the middle, when us 70% in the middle get together and realize that the 50% on both sides are fringe idiots. But we got other problems now, okay? Trump started World War III. But so he expects Iran, oh, you got 48 hours to open the straits. Well, what's it down to about 19 hours now? Or we're just going to unleash hell. What's he going to do, an EMP? Obviously, Iran, I mean, they started out with shock and awe. The best we had to get them all at one time, right? And they survived that just fine. So what's Trump going to do after we're in the fourth week now? What's Trump going to do that's going to surprise him besides the EMP or a nuclear weapon? To open the Strait of Hormus. I mean, see, this is the thing. I guess the U.S. can conquer any land, I mean, in the whole world, except the Strait of Hormuz, right? It just shows the weakness of the United States. It shows that surface fleet isn't as untouchable as it used to be. Okay, we don't have our aircraft carriers right off the coast, you know, with, you know, just showing our strength. We got them with their tails between the legs 700 to 800 kilometers away. That means those jets have to refuel 3 times to do their missions. With all our bases being blown up, you know, it's the thing is a war and attrition. Iran's going to win. We don't have no manufacturing base. Okay, I heard Pete Hegseth was going on about how much faster our stockpiles are going to be replenished because of this new stuff they're doing. You're too late. See, when you start a war, you plan a war 8 months to a year in advance. That gives you the time, and well, I'll get on this on the ground forces, all the ability and the materials and the men you need to do your war. But they're shock and awe at work. And now they're come with some deceptive practices. 7-gallon diesel, 5.5% unemployment rate in Oregon just today. 5.5% employment rate according to what? According to the way the government does the numbers? You know why we have so many? We should have a 0 unemployment number in this country. Negative. If we get rid of the 50, 60 million between foreign workers and H-1B visa legal workers that take in jobs, the illegals and the legal foreign workers, every American would have a job, but our administration would never do that, okay? But it's going to get a lot worse, people. It's going to get a lot worse. And eventually, every American's going to start suffering. Not that I'm suffering. I'm just a crazy-ass Marine that took an oath to the Constitution and wants to support and defend it, is going to support and defend it, and do whatever it takes to protect my American citizen, no matter how much they want to kick and scream to be a totalitarian communist prick or fascist. Okay? But Trump can't open the Strait of Hormuz, showing the weakness of the United States. Okay? Really, Trump? 48 hours. I'm sure Iran was just laughing at that. You gave us your best, and we still survived. People just don't have a clue. All right? Was the 90s better than today? 90s was a lot better than today. 80s was, I graduated in 86. Growing up in the 70s and 80s was the best. But, you know, during the 90s, we were a lot freer. But when I got out of the Marine Corps in 94, I realized I had seen the change from when you go in when Reagan's in office and you get out and Bill Clinton's in office. It's like I could see the change right away. The path this country was going to take was going to be a bad one. But they hadn't taken over quite like they did. But with the help of 9/11, you should ask, was it better before on September 10th, 2001, than it was on September 12th, 2001. That was a turning point. That's when everybody started to accept, yeah, we need surveillance, and then the phones came out, and but still the 90s, we got Chris Farley, Tommy Boy. You don't get much better than that, do you? All right. So yes, the past was better. It was, we imagine in your town if you only had half the cops that you have now with half the crime that you got now. It was Bill Clinton that said, I'm going to put 100,000 more cops on the street to make the city safe. Anybody in the city feel safe yet? No, now we got the military in the streets. And we're going to have, DHS at the airports now? Anyway, or troops in the airport tomorrow cause I don't know. This is all crazy. See, they're just trying to get us used to seeing uniforms in the street. Just like Nazi Germany, where there was a cop or some army guy in uniform walking the streets. Everybody being on their P's and Q's. Okay? All I know is this Strait of Hormuz stuff. So much Trump, not everybody's going to listen to you no more. Especially when the only way that you can get them open is to control Iran. And the only way you can control Iran is to nuke them. And if you do that, well, we all know what's going to happen then. China and Russia may decide to do the same thing. Agenda 2030 speeding. See, the thing is, we all know about it, right? It's not like the average person around the world is stupid to know what our leaders are trying to do. It's just we don't do nothing about it. It's one thing about this channel, trying to get people together. Get your gander up. Maybe you look at that gas price and say, this is fucking enough. Or you look at your taxes. Or you look at shit. I'm $500 short this month. And I work 30 extra hours. Might want to look at your kids and look at their future. And what you might have to do, sacrifice even your life if necessary, for your kids' future. I don't understand this country. I mean, we say we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, but we say we understand freedom and liberty. If we understand it, why don't we fight for it no more? Why not? Like they say, if we take our country back, a lot of these other countries won't be dealing with the problems that the U.S. foreign policy brings to them. Okay? No foreign entanglements. Especially no bombing a nation because we don't want to have a nuclear weapon. Well, we've been told for 30 years they could have had a nuclear weapon. And they don't. Because they don't want one. But not after this. Trump's guaranteed Iran to have a nuclear weapon now. If another country doesn't, we gave nukes to Israel. So why can't Russia or China give nukes to Iran? If Russia or China gave nukes to Iran and publicly said it, that would end the war tomorrow. There wouldn't be no Cuban Missile Crisis. Because I tell you what, none of these beta males that we got in Washington, D.C., they've never been in a fight before in their life. They're a bunch of beta male pussies. And they're going to start World War III. Israel, I can see nuking them. Okay? I appreciate everybody being here. Say hi. I don't watch the chat much because I appreciate everybody being here. But when I get a lot of views, I tell you what, these trolls... There's another thing. How are we supposed to fix our problems when nobody's allowed to voice anything that I may consider the truth? Okay? Or may, instead of dividing people, bring people together. That's the last thing they want. There's also all to get together and finally wake up and see, oh my God, I see who the real problem is. Anyway, let's get on the next thing. A ground invasion, okay? when I started talking about, Pete Hegseth saying how they're increasing production of weapons now and stuff, no, that needed to be done a year ago. And if we're going to have a ground invasion of Iran, really going to have a ground invasion, if it was possible, okay, you're going to need a lot more people in the military. So the first step would be a draft would be instituted. So this is the thing. Anybody thinks that we're going to have a ground invasion of Iran in the near future, you're out of your mind. We don't have the forces. We may be able to fly our jets over, but we don't have air superiority over their missiles. And they got missiles dug in the mountains 200-300 miles away from the coast, aimed in at the coast at ships that could be there. There's no way. Well, let's just get back to step one. Getting the army together, creating the army. How big a military do you think we'd have to have between the Navy, Army, and Marine Corps to sit there and put boots on the ground in Iran with a chance of winning? On D-Day, they put 150,000 troops on the beaches the first day. But they didn't stop putting them on. They just kept pouring it on the beaches. Day after day after day, they kept coming from England. They had millions of guys in England. They just got 150,000 on the beach the first day. So where are all these men going to come from? First, you got to train them. First, you got to get them in. Then you got to train them. Go through boot camp. And then they got to go through their infantry, whatever school, whatever their MOS is. You're talking months just to get them to the point, like we said, where you're in your first unit in the fleet. Okay? Now, this is before a war starts. I'm not talking about replacements after a war starts, preparing for the war. So you're talking, 6 months before they get to their unit. And then at least 6 months of training as a unit before you go into any combat. So that's just a year. And while that time, you need to build up your industrial base for wartime footing. That was one thing during World War II. In 1940 and 41, Roosevelt got us on a manufacturing wartime footing before we even entered the war. Does anybody say we're going to see that here? I mean, you're looking at a year and a half before we could have a legitimate ground invasion that would succeed. And that's if we disable a lot of their anti-ship missiles. I mean, Germany in 1944 in June still was strong, but not as strong as they were in 1941. This is just ridiculous. And then you're talking between the Marine Corps and Army, you're going to need, for sure, 1 million plus, let's say 1.2 million ground troops, plus 1.3 million in support. Well, everything from your cooks to the people that fly the jets. Everything in the military is to support the guy in the foxhole. Okay? If you're going to put boots on the ground, that's what it's all designed for. To support the guy in the foxhole so he can keep going forward. So anybody, this disinformation about a ground campaign. We got 2,500 Marine, 39 years ago, I was over in the Persian Gulf in the Marine Corps, part of a MAU, Marine Amphibious Unit, special operations capable, doing this shit, dealing with Iran, and look what we got now. Same fucking shit. Always wondered, what did I do all that for? We have the same damn problems we do now. But there's no way we can put troops on the ground. Okay, not now. It would be a massacre. And you got to remember, Iran knows that if it would, because their generals right now are laughing their asses off. You're like, we know there's not going to be no ground offensive. They don't stand a chance. Okay, it's not like Rommel, who needed the panzers by the beach to chase them back into the sea. They got missile batteries 200 miles offshore that can do that. Destroy them ships before they even get one troop off one of the ships. But anyway, you know, people are going with it. We have to build up an army first, okay? And our military is nowhere close. So all you people that are worried about a ground invasion, like I say, the first step is a draft. We have a draft. They plan on having a ground invasion somewhere. But even the guys that get drafted, it'll be over a year before they're into the battlefield, unless we get attacked ourselves on our own soil. So anyway, but just the way I view it, okay? That's just the way it is. Just the way it is. And Americans that don't understand military stuff, don't understand, you know, like I say, we start landing on them beaches, we need guys coming on them beaches every single day. Equipment, men, material, nonstop, okay? Beans, bullets, and Band-Aids to continue fighting with the equipment, because there's going to be a lot of bad guys on the other side. So anyway, the ground invasion, not going to happen. No matter what. I just find it funny that YouTubers that don't know nothing about military operations, how the military works, how to conduct a war, what goes into it besides, oh, we got 2,500 Marines on 5 or 6 amphibious assault ships out there. Yeah. And when an amphibious assault ship wants to unload, you know, the stuff, the Amtraks and stuff, that when they ballast down, they got to be stationary. Boy, stationary ship on a beach landing. Even if, like I say, it doesn't matter. Not in today's world. You know, we don't have World War II technology. You know, the last Marine Corps combat beach landing was in Korea. Okay? And, you know, like the battleship, it's going out. Okay, an amphibious assault force has a helicopter carrier, 2 LPDs, which are LPHs, which are smaller helicopter carriers. They only usually carry about 4 to 6 helicopters. And then you got your LSTs, which is a ground invasion. You got your air invasion, and you got your ground invasion ships. Okay? It just ain't going to work. Not like you have an armada of 1,000 ships that are going to show up. They would be sitting ducks, and I don't. Anyway, some people are going with it. I've even heard some military guys. They weren't in the ground side, but don't understand how all that works. Okay, those MAUs, what they call it, MAU, MEWS, MEFs. I've heard them. You know, Marine Expeditionary Force, Marine Expeditionary Unit, Marine Amphibious Force, Marine Amphibious Unit. We were the MAUSOC. We were Special Operations Capable, but I guess they lost that designation now. But it would be a bad deal, because the thing is with those amphibious assaults, they're not meant to take over a country. They're meant to do a beach landing, or if there's problems in the embassy, this is what one of the air arms is for, to go in there with the choppers and evacuate the embassy and stuff like that. But they have enough supplies supposedly that we could deal with have enough beans, bullets, and Band-Aids for us, so we could have dealt with the bad guys for 6 weeks. But how are you going to resupply them? I mean, it ain't going to work, okay? The ground invasion, like they say. And then you need to stage all this stuff. Like they staged in England for D-Day. Like they staged in Saudi Arabia for the first Iraq war, okay? Where are we going to stage in the Middle East? Okay, where they can't see our ships coming. I mean, where they can't hit them. I mean, they could wait till, I don't know, let them assemble, and then, a couple weeks before they're going to take off, and just nail that area with 1,000 missiles. Well, so much for your. I mean, you gotta come together somewhere. Where are they going to do that? And it obviously have to be somewhere in the Persian Gulf. You can't go through the Strait of Hormuz. You can't fly everything in. You need your ships. So we're going to do Qatar, Saudi Arabia, probably Saudi Arabia. But the thing is, why did we drop the nuclear weapons on Japan? They say the main reason was they wanted to sit there and limit the casualties, that the price to invade Japan would have been too high. You want to show Russia we had the bomb. And they're, after 4 years of fighting Japan, almost 4 years, a lot of hatred, they probably, a little revenge. See, we're the better. Anyway. But is that what Israel's going to do? See, Iran's not going to fall, okay? We done lost this war the second we've dropped the first bomb. Unless we're willing to drop the big bomb and take the consequences that may come because of that. Even Armageddon all around the world, okay? It's a precarious situation Trump is in. It's amazing what they're willing to do to hide that E-list, isn't it? Don't hear nothing more about that, do you? Even though Trump signed the bill from Congress saying he has to release it, unredacted, okay, that all went away. All the fraud from the illegals, from the foreigners in this country, on those social services systems all around the country. Like I say, that bill is going to be probably $1.5 trillion. That's all gone away now, right? Somalians are probably back to taking suitcases of money back to Somalia. Nothing's being done. And gas prices, like I say, everything's about to go up. See, this is the thing, people. World War III is going to affect us just like anything else, okay? All these other countries that are watching, videos that, we don't see nothing of Israel because they're getting by. They're not even getting bombed, right? Yeah, Tel Aviv's going to be a pile of rubble. By the way, we'll be seeing, you won't have to watch videos of that because it'll be right in your neighborhood. 8.25 in downtown. 8.25 in downtown Los Angeles. Man, you know what we're paying for gas here? $3.39. Panhandle, Nebraska. It's gone up. That's gone up 94 cents. This isn't live. This isn't live in guess. Yeah, this is live. About as live as you can get. Let's see. Ouch! I pinched myself. This is live. Or is it Memorex? I tell you what, though, when it comes out there with this AI shit, I mean, even if I were to see something, I would still check into it. I mean, you can tell a lot of stuff that's AI, but like this war stuff, this Iran stuff that's going on, it's so... I know we're not winning because they're hiding information from us. I know we're not winning because Iran's not losing. Okay? But the lack of information we're getting, and the information we are getting, I mean, it's sifting through. So I'm just, I don't like AI, but yeah, unreal. Even though the algorithm thinks I'm AI, and YouTube saying they think I'm AI, okay, whatever. Check out my other content. I guess I'm Max Headroom. Anyway, I want to talk about, have you ever been told the truth? That's all I ever had to hear. I wasn't, have I ever been told the truth? Yeah, slightly all the time. That's why I'm on here. Okay? The truth is this country's fucked up. The truth is that Americans don't want to do nothing about it because they've been too hypnotized by their phones and they can't go without Walmart or McDonald's for any certain amount of time. They're not willing to make the sacrifice for their children or their future generations that are going to suffer because we sat on our asses and did nothing and stole all their money so we can maintain our lifestyle. Okay? I even told the truth to my kids when the teachers didn't want to hear it. When I come home, when my girls came home and told me how their teacher was telling them that China was just such a wonderful fucking place to live, I settled them straight real quick. You don't solve any problems by dealing with lies. And you solve any problems by thinking some guy is a god. Okay? All I know is things are going to get a lot worse. If you're not preparing for what's coming, then, then you'll have to face the truth, okay? Preppers all listen to the truth because that's what drives us to prep. We don't want to listen to the sugar-coated lies. We see the truth in the writing on the walls. And eventually this house of cards is going to fall. They ain't going to be able to keep this crazy Twilight Zone world going anymore. Okay? And then when the truth comes, is either marching down your street or slaps you in the face. Whatever, you're going to have to deal with it. And then us that are out here in the middle of nowhere, well, we have an advantage, you might say. Hey, how's everybody? Meaning, has the media ever told us the truth? Oh, well, I grew up listening to Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is. Yep, every night was Walter Cronkite. Okay? I hope we were getting the truth back then. Now we get opinion. Walter Cronkite wasn't giving his opinion on the CBS News every night. He was stating the news. That's what we need to get back to. Too much opinion. Hey, this is what happened. He did it because, or they did it because they had a bad childhood. And that's opinion. Okay? If in the courtroom they would say, that's conjecture, that's opinion. We don't want to hear it. We want to hear facts. Okay? I mean, if the jury had to listen to a news broadcast to determine a verdict instead of the truth in the courtroom, what do you think they would come up with? The truth is very important. When the truth becomes dangerous, to speak it, when the truth becomes dangerous to know it, then you're in Nazi Germany. What do you think the Nazis, the Germans, who knew about the Holocaust, did that couldn't do nothing about it? People did know the truth. And there's a lot of people that didn't want to, some people know what's going to happen. Some people don't want to hear what's going to happen. And some people prepare for what's going to happen. Or was it? Some people don't know what's coming. Some people choose not to pay attention to what's coming. The rest of us prepare. You want to live in a lie, think everything's great. You sit there and you're paying extra for groceries. It just cost of living everywhere's going up. You can't afford nothing. You're having to cut back, and your government's asking you to give more, so you got to cut back even more. Like I say, both parties steal money from you through taxes, spend it on stuff you don't like, and do everything they can to impede on your constitutional rights and restrict them. Both parties do that. I don't have time for neither one. And they just done spent us into oblivion. Anyway, let's talk about Cuba for a little bit, what's going on there. Okay, we are, the United States, Trump personally, is causing a humanitarian crisis in Cuba. Personally causing, by cutting off their Venezuela oil, their energy reserves. As an American, how do you feel about that? Do you think that's a proper way to, as they say, export democracy? By making the people suffer worse under a democracy than they would a communist dictatorship? We got to knock the shit off. Donald Trump is guilty against crimes against humanity. All the way from back in the COVID shit with the shot. If you don't believe me, look up the Nuremberg Code. As soon as you get done saying you're full of shit, go to the internet and go look up the Nuremberg Code. The 10 principles of the Nuremberg Code. And breaking even one principle of the Nuremberg Code is a violation, crimes against humanity by whoever does it. Oh, it was passed after World War II to protect all citizens of the world from medical tyranny. Okay? Some of us knew this. That's why when they tried this Simon Says bullshit game with me, I even lived in Minnesota. I never social distanced. I never wore a mask. Went to work every day. Never took a shot. Never got sick. Put my finger up. Never went the way the arrows were in the store. I mean, that's how stupid they got. They had arrows on the floor in Walmart and shit. And me being the way I am, I went the opposite fucking direction. And it just so happens that I lived in the reddest county in Minnesota, small townville, and none of the small town stores shut down. We all went because we knew our constitutional rights. But you had people that went with it, willing to give up your freedom because somebody sits there and says, be scared of the boogeyman. Be scared of him. Just another little game they're playing. Are you a Dem? No, I am a constitutional conservative. I don't belong to any political party. Political parties just divide people. I believe in the Constitution. I took an oath as a Marine to the Constitution, not to the Democratic or Republican fucking party. They're both fucking corrupt. If you can't see that, I mean, Biden was bad. And I hate to say it, but Trump's worse. I mean, you seriously need to do the 25th Amendment on him. But then the thing is, then we get J.D. Vance. You know, Mr. AI himself. God, I can't believe a Marine turned into that shit. Somebody who started his adult life like I did, out in those little yellow footprints in Marine Corps boot camp, became an NCO and is an absolute retard. But that's what we get because we won't clean Washington out. But see, this is the thing. We need to get rid of Trump and just work our way on down all the way to Supreme Court justices, all of them. Reinstate the Constitution. A judge is only allowed to stay on the bench during times of good moral conduct. Yeah, that's what it says, I think. During times of good moral conduct. That means when they're fucking being idiots, they're not allowed to sit on the bench. And I still don't understand why a Supreme Court justice needs a frickin' lobbyist. What do you need, a lobbyist to tell you how to interpret the Constitution? Anyway, but this Cuba thing, this ain't the United States. We do not sit there and start a humanitarian crisis to bring a country to his knees because we don't like their leader. That is the people of Cuba to bring their government to their knees, not ours. We're using, Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly and carry a big stick. Trump's fucking thing is speak loudly, threaten everybody while you're swinging the big stick. We need to start working together, or eventually everybody's going to start working together against us, okay? And then where are we going to be? I mean, when our government finally started World War III and we have bombs going off in this country, and I'm not talking nuclear bombs. I'm just talking conventional warheads, like blowing up the Boeing plant in Seattle. That type of stuff. Is that what it's going to take before we march on Washington and let the whole world take a breath as we take our country back, our government back, and stop no foreign entanglements? I hate to say it, but the world would be a lot more peaceful if the United States would stop trying to create an empire. And I guess Trump thinks that an empire needs an emperor, and he's working on that. From Israel, huh? I was in Israel back in 1987. The people that I knew in Israel back then would have never put up with the shit that their government's doing now. I always said when I was in Israel that the oldest person could walk down the darkest alley in the middle of the night and not have to be afraid of shit. That was my impression of Israel. Very peaceful, friendly place. Okay? Not so much anymore. Their government's been hijacked by bad people. Our government's been hijacked by bad people. And now the rest of us are going to pay because the bad people are in charge. See, this is the way world wars start. When a bunch of criminal lunatics are in charge of countries. That's how world war starts. Okay? Oh, I haven't said this yet. If you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, to subscribe, and the bell notification. Because YouTube, for some reason, has a problem with my channel. I'm not allowed to give my opinion. In today's world, even though on the mainstream media and stuff, it's all opinion. I'm not allowed to give my opinion. The little guys like me are the ones that are scared of the most. Because all it takes is, hey, I remember that crazy-ass Marine. He was a little psycho, but I'm starting to understand him now. This is another thing. Us vets, we're trained to handle this. We're experienced to handle this. And we need to step up and take care of this problem. Okay? Then we can go back to our own little isolated lives. Oh, it said they should have, when we got out, they should have put us all on an island somewhere, not Epstein Island, but an island somewhere so we could live on the beach in our foxhole and break glass in case of emergency. And believe me, we got a serious emergency in this country right now. And that's one thing about this channel. I want to bring people together, organize. If you're in the military, get your fire team going. Then build your fire team up into a squad. And then get your squad into platoons. And then your platoons into companies. And your companies into battalions. Start where you're at, the ground up. You got kids or grandkids? We ain't got much time left, people. Like I say, if we don't bridle our government, okay, foreign nations will. And they will not only be enslaved, will be occupied by a foreign nation, that people that hate us because we wouldn't stand up to our government from doing this shit and creating hate and discontent in their countries. I mean, you think of the Iranians that have all been killed, the Russians that have all been killed by our weapons. And if they were able to get on our soil, well, you might have a few people that want to hook and jab any damn American they saw. We need peace, people. We need this just corrupt, evil government. We got to go. Like I say, look at what we're doing to the people of Cuba because we don't like their government. And it's just going to make the government come down even harder. I'm so tired of this. Regime change. We don't like him. You know, he hasn't said much about Greenland lately. Maybe that's going to be the next thing. We have lost the moral high ground. You know, the greatest generation that fought World War II, that my grandfather was in, you know, fought in Germany, Europe, third wave to heat Omaha Beach, and didn't leave Europe till Germany surrendered. You know, my grandfather died in 2004, and he was already disgusted. What did we do all that stuff for? What did we do all that stuff for? You know, friends he lost and stuff. Anyway, just a bad time, people, bad time. And it just, the people we got in charge, they have no common sense anymore. I mean, if the generals were yelling at Trump, basically telling him, don't do this, and what's happening, they warned him that this was going to happen, and he still went through with it. I mean, the average person knew it's a bad idea. They always underestimate their opponent. Oh, it's only going to last 2 days. Oh, it may take 4 days. Now we're into 4 weeks. And now we have a resupply problem. All right, we have a manufacturing-based problem. Right? What's Iran got to do? Huh. They're connected by land to Russia and China, North Korea. They can just start sending drones in like crazy. They can supply Iran like NATO and the U.S. supplied Ukraine. You know, and the U.S. will never be able to outlast that. It's only the beginning, devil dog. I know, you know. You know, I used to, you know, we got out, we got our duty 214, and then after we did our time in active reserves, we got our discharge, honorable discharge and stuff. You know, that was just the warm up. I'm really realizing the time in the Marine Corps was just the warm up for the big finale, to get the training and the experience to deal with what's coming our way. Yeah, your service is never over. Not in these day and age, especially when the Constitution is in such danger. Okay? And if we can't, just like if the U.S. can't open and control the Strait of Hormuz, they can't win the Iranian war. Okay? If we can't control our federal government, we will lose our rights. We'll lose our Constitution. You know, our Constitution may have to be fought for every once in a while because we're going to get a government in there that doesn't give a shit. Okay? Anyway, appreciate everybody being here. That's all I got for tonight. But yeah, everything from the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran ain't going to open it up. You know, all I know is that oil's about to hit the Tuesday morning. If the Strait of Hormuz isn't open, because Trump gave him a deadline now. So the markets aren't going to react after that deadline. When the markets realize that there's no way the U.S. can open the Strait of Hormuz and all that shipping is down to nothing unless they want to deal with the yen, the Chinese yuan or whatever, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. Anyway, prepare for a wild ride this week. If not, Trump may, they may do a tactical nuke in Iran, and it could be an interesting week, folks. It could be an interesting week. We're living in historic times. Remember this. Write it down. Because when your grandchild is sitting on your lap one day saying, Grandma or Grandpa, how did things get so crazy back then? I look at my history books and I just can't believe it. Like the further generations in Germany used to say to their grandparents when they learned the history of their country. Yep. So anyway, bad times ahead. I don't see peace, okay? No wonder why they wanted to raise the defense budget. They raised the defense budget 50% this year. Something tells me they may have had this planned a little bit before 4 weeks ago. Anyway, I got YouTube. Google's is in the chat, everybody. Hi, Google. You miss me? Yeah, they're slamming down. David Burke, you lost the message and stuff. So you remember, Google is very sensitive. That's the first qualification on a social media platform is you need to be a thin-skinned son of a bitch. Okay? We get back to the First Amendment, people having the right to sit there and right to be heard, just as equal as the next guy. A lot of these problems, they won't be able to divide us like they do. That's one reason they silence us. And the government ain't going to be able to get away with it. We used to have the news. The news, why do we have freedom of the press? Why do we have freedom of the press? So the press can get into the government's fucking face and expose everything the government's doing in newsprint. That's why we got freedom of the press. Okay? But what do you do when the press won't even ask any questions? Or they're, restricted. Or they want to, whatever. I'm so sick of it. Nixon resigned because, whoever broke the Watergate, I forget that again. But that was the biggest thing. Oh, they were so great because they broke the Watergate. But no reporter wants to break in the mainstream the biggest story of the millennial, the Epstein files. No reporter wants to touch it. Boy, wouldn't that make a few heads roll? Yeah, both parties, wouldn't it? All over the world. Royalty, CEOs, princes in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's one thing. This is another reason they need to open the Strait of Hormuz. Because all these oil sheiks, princes and stuff that are keeping their power and authority because of the money they have, well, let's just say they ain't making money no more. And the people start going hungry and the country starts going under, those princesses may find themselves at the wrong end of a sword with their head over a chopping block. The only way government stays in power is by keeping the masses happy. Okay, the retarded masses. The masses that will submit. Okay, just like they do in this country. It's the job of a politician. Make sure the masses are happy. Okay? So we'll see what $10 gas will do. See if we're dealing with $10 gas and $8 a dozen eggs and, 6-gallon milk, $6 milk and stuff. We'll see what happens when Americans go to Walmart with $100 or the grocery store with $100 and come home with 2 meals. Anyway, but welcome to America. And this is the thing. There's already other countries because of this war that are feeling it. It's so awesome, isn't it? That America can go start wars in other countries all over the world and never have to feel the repercussions of it. Well, that's going to change, people. That's going to change. Okay? You got Russia being bombed with our weapons. Okay? If Moscow can be bombed, DC can be bombed. Okay? Prepare, everybody, prepare. Quit your crying. Another troll. Hey, Google, why don't you take care of that and quit your crying? I tell you what, these trolls, they're going to be the worst. I mean, anybody who sits on their keyboard, tries to cause problems while their mom's making their jelly toast with Skittles and stuff, cutting the crust off, and they're down in their basement, trolling in between their porn channels. Let's just say they're not going to last too long. But see, survival of the fittest. You know, this is what did which billionaire was it that said that if he was dealing with the way nature is, he would have been dead. Warren Buffett said it. That if he would had to do with natural selection, he'd have been dead a long time ago. So that's one thing. Holding a beta male, inferior male up above alpha, superior males because they have money is against nature, okay? And Warren Buffett admitted it. And when that time does come, when the status quo changes and people realize our money ain't worth shit and everything's about survival, like I say, if you haven't got your skills through your life, dealt with, able to endure hardship, whether it be financial, any type of hardship, stress, cold, hot, whatever. Put it this way, if you're one of those people that can feel the pee, the princess and the pee, you can feel that little pee through all those mattresses where that would bother you, you're not going to survive, okay? You're a little too soft. You're reverse merit. I tell you, what do you do? What do you do? We're all in the sinking ship Titanic together. And some of them, I guess, are listening to the band play on, thinking nothing's going to happen. Well, I'm out there screaming at people while I'm building my, that's one thing. When the Titanic was going down, I'd have been building something that could have floated to, at least, I can't get in a lifeboat, I'll make my own. But they'd just be sitting there while I'm making my stuff. And then when I float off the ship and save myself, they'd be, what did he do that for? See, Americans have become so lazy, they don't even want to save themselves. We're going to get a rude awakening, people. We've been living in the twilight zone in this country for a long time, creating reality for other countries that we're living in the twilight zone. And the reality that these countries are living in is going to be coming here. Guaranteed this year. We're going to have bombs from missiles going off in this country. It's just a progression of war, people. So, we're in World War III. Don't let them fool you. But then again, we're not in a war because Congress didn't declare war. But we're talking about ground forces. I guess this must be another police action like Korea, huh? No, they're not going to get their nuclear weapons. I know we've been saying for 30 years they were going to have nuclear weapons, but they haven't had them yet. Even though the leader sat there and said it was against his policy because of the way he reviewed Muslim, the faith that was against it to have nuclear weapons. But no, they're going to have a nuclear weapon. weapons of mass destruction. You know, they've been playing this game for so long. I'm sick of hearing it. See, once you get older, and you know, bad enough I was, you know, when I was in the Marine Corps, like say, 39 years ago in the Persian Gulf dealing with Iran. 39 years later, well, it's a lot more serious now, but we were still running through the Straits of Hormus then. We ain't doing that no more. So anyway, it's going to get rough, people. It's going to get rough. 48 hours from is over in about 19 hours. Let's see what you're going to do about it, pussy. Like I say, the only way we can beat Iran is by nuking them. And if we do that, that's just going to create, it just, you know, Ukraine is going to get nuked. China's going to take over Taiwan. North Korea will nuke South Korea. But then again, we got the smartest minds in Washington, D.C. figuring all this shit out, didn't they? Don't they? People are lost, everybody. They're lost. Anyway, it's time to get our country back before they totally destroy our country and the whole fucking world. There's no reason that the rest of the world has to suffer because we got lunatics in charge of our government. Not very fair of us American people to allow that to happen. Or for our government to create humanitarian crisis in Cuba so the Cuban government falls. Okay? There's other way of doing it, like maybe cooperation. You know, like when we used to get Cuban cigars in this country, we used to cooperate with them. Anyway, boy, maybe they should have, who was, I can't even remember now. The leader of Cuba did the revolution, you know, whatever his name was, he died. Maybe we should have let him on the baseball team when he came out here and tried out for baseball before he decided to become dictator, communist leader of Cuba, huh? What the hell was his name again? The good old golden age of Trump isn't the great? Yeah, golden age of Trump. Yeah, you're winning so much. You're so tired of winning, right? Remember what we were told? I saw gas for $1.82 in Iowa. Yeah, the E85 shit. He's a con. He's a salesman. He's a con man. Okay? He'll say anything to make money and inflate his ego. Anyway. We are creating chaos worldwide, I know. Like I say, we need to make our government stop it. The world is looking at us, looking at that Constitution, looking at that the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and that First and Second Amendment, being like, what the fuck is wrong with them people? Especially when we got the biggest military in the world, all us trained, experienced vets that are no longer in the, you know, us vets, the biggest military in the world, okay? And they're looking at us and they're not doing a damn thing. Complacency, you get too complacent. We all know what happens then. Not to say you should have a lot of chaos in your life, but, you know, complacency just leads to, oh, I can't live without my Walmart and McDonald's. I'm complacent as long as I have that in my cell phone. Okay? Every once in a while, I need to get a little rowdy. All right? The government is completely out of control. Like I say, this channel is about bringing people together, not dividing them. I would love to see this summer a 4 million man, well-regulated militia surround D.C. while doing exercises, becoming a well-organized military or militia. We're in all the states, all 50 states, all our ducks in one line, in one place, and then all 50 states have training exercises too. In public, so the government knows what the hell's going on. Like I say, 4 million vets and highly motivated patriots surrounding D.C., doing military, becoming doing training exercises, becoming an army. I mean, our military is not even that big. The United States military ain't even that big to take us on. Think we'd have to worry about cops? A show of force, people. That's what we need. A show of force as a sign. Kind of like the Magna Carta being handed to the king at the end of a sword. I think it was King Richard. Was saying you will either sign this or the sword goes all the way fucking through you and you will sit there and rule by every letter that's on this. We need a show of force. Okay? Show them that we're done with this shit. And after a show of force, if they still don't get it, then it's time to use that force. Okay? And that's the point we're at. Not because I want to be here. You know, I went through the Marine Corps back in the late 80s, mid 80s and 90s. Not so I could be 30 years later thinking about having to fight my federal government for protecting our Constitution. But I really don't have a choice. I got kids and grandkids. My grandkids need their grandpa to make sure I do something to protect their future. Okay? I don't think there's anything better that I could give my grandkids than that. Government labs have people divided. I know, it's like I say, of course it's a joke to them. And we allow it to happen. Like I say, when they got to deal with 30 million crazy-ass vets like me, we'll solve some of the problems in this country. You know, if it wasn't for people like me that were rowdy, rebel without a cause, believed in every word of the Constitution to the word, we wouldn't have a Second Amendment right now. It's us that are rowdy that keeps the government at bay as much as we can. So anybody who wants us really to go away is looking at, hey, I'm ready to burn the Constitution because it doesn't mean anything. I'd rather be a slave to the system. Anyway, bad times ahead. Say this week should be pretty interesting between the markets and, when Trump can't open up the Strait of Hormuz tomorrow afternoon and Iran just laughs at their ass and then Iran just, like I say, Russia's holding back and Iran's holding back. I don't think Iran wants to destroy the Middle East, but they'll slowly do it as they're being destroyed. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Appreciate everybody being here. Like I say, hit that thumbs up to subscribe and the bell notification if you could. Watch some of my other content. I got over 1,800 videos on this channel. A lot of shorts. Check out my shorts. Share them. We need to start solving these problems. We got lunatics in charge of our country. Satanists. Evil bastards. Okay? That think they got control over us. The illusion of control. We need to break that illusion. Okay? Anyway, I appreciate everybody being here. And like I say, start organizing, folks. Start organizing, preparing. There's going to be a purpose for everybody in the fight to come. Not everybody's going to be on the front line. But the guy in the front line can't fight if he don't have his support behind him. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Everybody have a great Sunday night, and I will do another live stream. Maybe I'll start doing them more often now again, because we need to be warned. Everybody needs to be warned. Anyway, this is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.